On May 2nd, the European Space Agency locked a thermal satellite onto coordinates 75 degrees south. What they logged at the Thwaites Glacier was supposed to be a routine calibration test. Instead, they recorded a heat bloom so massive it blinded the sensor array for 12 seconds. Nature does not create perfect right angles. It definitely doesn't create them 2 miles beneath the ice. When the system reset, the data was immediately classified. But someone forgot to wipe the automated relay servers. And what I found in those scrubbed files means we are out of time. They're calling it Project Ice Geometry. 2 days ago, the ESA Sentinel satellite detected a sudden activation. This wasn't a slow thaw. A thermal signature ignited deep under the Antarctic ice shelf. It generated a localized grid of extreme heat. The distribution pattern was a flawless right-angled pyramid. Natural geothermal vents are chaotic and unpredictable. This structure burned at an exact sustained temperature. If you woke up sweating at 3 in the morning this week, or if you felt a sudden, heavy pressure behind your eyes, you probably blamed the weather or stress. But infrasonic waves from that thermal burst traveled up the Pacific Basin. Your body felt the frequency before the instruments did. The official story from mainstream glaciologists came out fast. They claim a newly opened volcanic caldera caused the melt. They say it's just a sudden tectonic shift. Here is what the actual data shows. A volcano requires a seismic tremor to break the crust. The geological sensors logged absolute zero seismic activity. The ice didn't break. Something simply turned on. Almost immediately, air traffic controllers watched the radar screens change. U.S. military supply flights out of Christchurch were abruptly rerouted. C-17 transports carrying heavy excavation gear went completely dark over the Southern Ocean. They didn't file new flight plans. They just vanished from public tracking. If you've made it this far, you already know something is wrong. You can feel the unnatural quiet in the news cycle. You thought we were watching a localized event at the bottom of the world. But those rerouted military flights weren't going there to investigate. They were going there to contain a structural failure, and the intercepted data proves they were too late. The thermal pyramid is expanding its grid. The ocean currents are carrying that unnatural heat north. Let's look at the institutional response. 48 hours after the Sentinel detection, the government pulled their field teams. They claimed it was a routine winter evacuation. But you don't leave $30 million of equipment to freeze. Not unless you are running from something. Then we see the physical evidence hitting our shores. Buoys off the coast of Oregon are reading a sudden temperature spike. It isn't random warming. The water is heating in perfectly spaced, timed pulses. A rhythmic thermal signal traveling thousands of miles. Which brings us to the biological layer. Hospitals along the West Coast are quietly logging an anomaly. A massive spike in patients reporting severe vertigo and a metallic taste in their mouth. If you've noticed your dogs refusing to go outside at night, or if you've been having vivid, geometric dreams you can't quite remember, you are standing in the expanding radius of that signal. Local news stations are blaming solar flares for the radio interference. They tell you it's just atmospheric noise. But solar radiation hits the entire hemisphere at once. The interference we are seeing is entirely directional. It originates exactly from the Thwaites coordinates. The signal is pushing from the bottom up. This isn't just about melting ice anymore. The thermal bloom is interacting with the global magnetic field. The water supply in the continental U.S. relies on specific atmospheric pressure systems. Those systems are fracturing because the ocean beneath them is boiling in a grid. They are trying to keep you looking at the sky. They want you distracted by weather balloons and politics. Because if you look down, you might realize the ground itself is changing. The heat is rising. The geometry is holding its shape perfectly. It's a machine, and the military knows it. Everyone assumes the government is rushing to stop an activation. We think the flights went dark to prevent a global catastrophe. We are waiting for the other shoe to drop. But look at the unredacted thermal timeline from the satellite. The peak heat output wasn't yesterday. It was 3 weeks ago. The anomaly didn't just turn on. It finished its sequence. The ice shelf is collapsing because the exhaust vents are fully open. We aren't watching a threat wake up. We are living inside its active system. The structural failure they are trying to contain is our own planet. It already happened. The military isn't building a perimeter to keep people out. They are trying to figure out what just got locked in with us. Check your tap water tomorrow morning, if it feels slightly warmer than it should. If the steam rises in straight lines, what are you going to do when you realize the grid is already under your house? Do not drink it.